Chapter 3, Arcane Force. 3 of 4. Mrs. Ford, or Diva, which is her actual name, a reflection of her personality, and the designated title given to her sub-race of wanderers, swallowed her boiling temper to assess the developing situation. For a member of the most hot-blooded race on the planet, and an impulsive decision-maker in nearly every situation, Mrs. Ford had more calm and rational decisions under her belt than her dear husband ever had. This had nothing to do with rebelling against her ancestral bloodline. On the contrary, she often swallowed molten bursts of anger for something as simple as a hair transformation. Divas, a member of the race, not Mrs. Ford, are devoted worshippers of illuminant mystica, entities believed to have introduced light and heat to wanderlust before the First Era. Their devotion, which borders on fanatic worship, has transformed their humanoid physiques into perfect vessels for housing the essence of their patron, Mystica. Similar, yet opposite to the Dreadmorn, Devas are more attuned to illuminant Mystica. And unlike the Dreadmorn, they are adored by most Mystica, except for the cold-blooded ones. Unknown to others, the Mystica despise Devas for being too hot, while the Devas despise them for being too cold. Either way, both races keep their distance. Devas never attempt the essential plausible by cold onyxes, and well, mystics have never given a jute's ass anyway. In contrast to Rettiford's dark complexion, his wife had the fairest skin in all of Zeus. Of course, comparing one diva's fairness to another's is a moot exercise only divas indulge in, for the rest of Wanderlust is far more concerned with their transformation itself, rather than the cool veneer. Oops, sorry, I mean hottest flair. Wouldn't want to describe a diva with such foul words. As members of their race grow hotter, a trait directly proportional to their anger, from the tip of their nose to the soles of their feet, they begin to turn red. Red as freshly plump tomatoes. This change is instantaneous. Their temper, disappointment, disgust, and judgment are always just a click away, with judgment perhaps a few clicks ahead. These visual cues often appear before they even lay eyes on the subject, which naturally is everyone except their own kind. Among the many myths circulating through Wanderlust, some wanderers suspect that a diva can peer into the future, probably a rumor started by another diva, but who knows? It's challenging to be around a diva who wears her emotions on her sleeve, or worse, displays them through facial expressions. While it takes a miracle to please a typical diva, they are still universally preferred over those with red hair. The latter, whose hair transforms into literal heaps of fire, are officially designated danger zones by the kingdom's Mahant. Only a compressed surge of pure anger can tint a diva's gorgeous silver hair reddish, and one never crosses a diva with red streaks, let alone one with a head hosting a fire. Yes, ma'am, will do. My life is but a cobblestone. Step on me as you please are the only words that might please a red-headed diva enough to let you live.
Wait.
Mrs. Ford calmed her husband with a finger pressed to her lips. Rettiford always kept a close eye on his wife's silver hair. Ever since the first red streak had appeared, he'd grown increasingly cautious. Others might call her a genius for managing to look so young, but those nincompoops didn't have to live with Mrs. Ford. Only deeply suppressed emotions could trigger such a change, and only Aurochs knew what had caused that one strand, because Rettiford was as clueless as any stranger.
I blame my cold-bloodedness.
Wanderers always thought Rettiford joked, yet he was as serious as a red-headed diva. Back in their youthful, romantic days, Diva used to repeat herself often. These days, Rettiford scoured her every subtle gesture, like Hem with his everything is a lock obsession, searching for hidden meanings in even the tiniest action. Rettiford spiraled into thought.
A finger on the lips means hush. That should be universal. It should apply to divas too. Does she want me to shut up? Lower my voice? End the debate? Or the complete opposite?
He fixated on her finger, trying to decipher the signal.
Maybe she wants her lip balm. Did she apply any in the last hour? Think. Damn it. Think. How can you be this slow? You're the chief of sentinels. 70 years of diva experience.
He mentally scolded himself as pressure built up, and somehow his cold, dread-morn blood generated enough heat to make him sweat, a rare and shocking phenomenon for his kind.
Now,
Mrs. Ford pointed at the crowd.
Jump in,
She clarified. When her husband failed to respond, she tilted her head, sighed, and broke it down further.
Wait for your chance to jump into the conversation. That's the only way you can.
She said, gently returning her finger to her lips. Oh, she was about to give advice. Rettiford exhaled in relief until he saw a second white strand of Mrs. Ford's hair shift into a glossy red hue.
What in Auroch's dishonor did you do, Rhett?
He questioned his very existence. Rettiford lost another piece of himself that day. Yet even as he shivered, spiraling into a storm of plausibilities, he still functioned on reflex, ready to jump into the debate the moment his dear wife gave the signal. Mrs. Ford assessed the room carefully. Her husband had never quite grasped the timing required to jump into a conversation and make it his own, a skill divas were naturally born with. But being married to one, he really should have picked it up by now. In any case, she would have to use her power to help her lost husband seize the conversation and make it all about her.
Him.
Mrs. Ford readjusted her thoughts, and she knew exactly how to do it. Hem and Lyra were busy competing over a ridiculous bet about who was better. The entire idea, of course, had come from Lyra. The duo were opposites, to say the least. Yet if one were to subtract Hem's overconfidence, which a diva might generously label as rock-solid confidence, especially considering he'd opposed the Queen thrice, he truly was the best sentinel in all 4 kingdoms. Lyra had realized this the day they met, so to boost her own confidence, or ego as a diva would say, she hijacked every case meant for Hem and proposed a bet. Whoever solved the most cases in a year would be declared the best. Mrs. Ford, however, changed the rules to make things more interesting, for herself primarily. With her husband as department chief and she herself the master of the house, a fancy way of saying master of him, she effectively controlled everything within the department, including the number of solves. Mrs. Ford convinced her husband, who in turn convinced everyone else, that performance should be judged not only by the number of cases solved, but also by the quality of the work, the number of loose ends left, and the time taken to resolve them, which conveniently tied directly into the number of stars an officer could earn based on performance. Stars that were, again, handed out by her husband. By her. What? A diva needs her daily dose of drama. Finding her moment, Mrs. Ford pointed into the crowd, signaling her husband to take over the conversation. She loved watching a dominant man with power crush the dreams of little peasants. Now, if only her husband could do that on her whims. Rettiford followed her finger to a pair of twins among the raging officers and instantly understood his wife's master plan. He nodded, patiently awaiting the perfect moment to make his entrance. Among Lyra's many schemes, one particular possibility finally came to fruition during today's debate. Until now, Hem had always stood alone in his analysis of any situation. But for the first time, he had a group supporting and defending his claims, all thanks to Lyra's master plan and months of behind-the-scenes manipulation. Once someone on your side contradicts your point of view, you pause and reconsider. That hesitation was Lyra's planned entry point into Hem's field of vision, where he would finally take notice of Lyra hurt.
Act by not acting. Seems spooky.
The phrase echoed without an echo, bouncing awkwardly off the room's walls. Lyra spotted a pair of twins, both speaking in unison, but with a slight delay. Though they looked identical, she couldn't tell who was following whom or who had initiated the speech.
Make sure to please the almighty algorithm on your way out, and that shall notify you on the next chapter's release. See ya in the next one.